in first year, the second year textbook, the third year textbook, the fourth year textbook, the MBA textbook, and they're all slightly different on how they do this. However, what you also see, there's also a lot of similarity. Okay, so although there is a little bit of flexibility, and the reason why you might want to have some change could be for different people reading it. So you might want to sort of slightly tailor or modify the plan for different readers. Like for instance, if you know what one person is really a quantitative kind of person and they're reading it, then maybe you want to play up a little bit more of the quantitative stuff. Maybe another potential investor, your grandma, doesn't have any clue whatsoever about financial stuff, so maybe you don't have to bury poor grandma in 900 Excel spreadsheets. And maybe she likes something else, like pictures or something, so you have a slightly more picture-oriented plan, or something like this. So there could be a little bit of tailoring or changing the order a little bit for different readers. But generally you want to have make sure that you follow the main stuff. The first thing, of course, is always the cover page, the title page. This is, of course, the first thing that people see. It's important to get a good first impression. Okay? A lot of this is just contact information. Right? So if I'm the potential investor, I'm reading your plan, I want to have an easy way of just picking up the plan and saying, this is great, I want to call up Bob. So you have to make sure you're easily accessible. Website addresses, phone numbers, street addresses, all that stuff. Also on the cover page, you might want to have your business logo, because that's important. And this confidentiality notice. The point of doing this is you don't want the potential reader to go photocopy your plan 40 times and give it out to everyone else, right? Because you're talking about stuff that's sensitive. Right, this is the inner strategies, inner plans, internal documents, financial documents of your company. So you don't want this all over the place. So the idea here is to make it clear that the investor is just to read this and make their investment decision, but not to publish it in 700 different sources. That's important because obviously you don't want all your secrets all over the place. The next is table of contents. This is really important, and it's always organized by the sections and the page numbers. And you want to make sure you don't forget any sections. Okay. It should be nice and consistent, nice and neat. Align up all the numbers. It should look like a book. Very professional. And why do we have this? It's so that, remember, different decision makers might have different needs, right? One person might want to jump to the financials, another person might care more about competitive strategy. So they want to have table of contents so they can say, I need to flip to page 7, and the other person will flip to page 10 when they start. Remember that a lot of these readers, let's say a venture capitalist or something, they might have 40 business plans on their desk. And it's unlikely that they're going to be quite as, pedantic and sit there and read your business plan from cover to cover and go through it thoroughly. They probably will look at it very quickly at the very beginning. It's almost like submitting resumes to get a job. They're not going to read everything line by line, maybe at first. Now, maybe if they're very interested, they might delve into it deeper. But when they're first getting it, it's like a resume. You want to make a good first impression, and so you want to be able to help the person find the key areas that they're looking for right away. Executive summaries are next. Okay, they're placed next. Okay, in sort of the order of sequence. But typically they are written last. In other words, you write the whole business plan, and then you summarize it, and then stick this so-called executive summary in at step 3. And I've listed here for you some of the key things that you want to hit up on the plan. It's basically a 1 to 2 page summary of the entire plan. This is basically so that if I am the busy potential investor reading your plan, I should be able to, within a couple minutes, get all the really key pieces of information. The idea here is to excite me, the reader, saying, "Boy, I want to read more of this. I want to delve in further. I want to look more." So maybe these entrepreneurs really are onto something. And so this is sort of the summary here, right? Opportunity, right? How is this business really solving problems for customers? What needs are they filling? I've talked about this before. Remember, we went from idea recognition to opportunity recognition. So the first things we want to prove is that yes, I have an opportunity. I can solve problems. I can fill needs. All that psychology stuff. Remember Maslow's hierarchy and so on. Erg theory. David McClellan, acquiring needs theory. Whatever needs, right? Could even be equity theories too. Process theories, motivation. Could be other things. So first thing off the bat is, do we really have an opportunity? Right? How this business is going to fix this problem. How is it going to fill the need? So how are we going to sort of solve this problem that customers have? How are we going to fill their needs? Again, competitive advantage, remember, is so important. How are you going to compete in this competitive environment and not go out of business in 6 weeks? Right? How do you have some sort of sustainable competitive advantage, solid business model, clearly defined target market that's hopefully growing? Do we have some of those barriers of entry and all that kind of Michael Porter stuff? Remember the
do we have a bunch of honest, smart, experienced people with complementary skills? Do the financials look good? Right? And we're looking at how much money does this entrepreneur need to raise? Right? Like for instance, if the entrepreneur comes to you, has never sold a product and wants $40 trillion or some ridiculously large number, you'll think the guy's crazy. How are they going to use the money? So what are they spending this on? And how they make good decisions about buying capital assets. Different needs of the business. So how much money do they need to raise from me, the investor? And any exit strategy. So how am I eventually going to be able to liquidate and get out? Sell my ownership. That's more for equity. The next section is business strategy, and basically all these future slides do is go into each of those topics in much more detail. Because remember, if you go back to the previous slide, the executive summary is a 1 to 2 page summary of the entire plan. So this is basically the quick and dirty overview of everything that comes next. So ultimately the rest of the business plan is just a very, very detailed, expanded version of these things. So you'll notice a lot of overlap here. So let me just go through all of this. The business section talks about the opportunity. So that's one of the first things we want to do is establish, yes, opportunity exists because we're solving problems and filling needs that people actually have. So people will be willing to run out and buy our product. You also want to talk about, again, here a description of the business, things like how you go about fulfilling this opportunity. So how do you solve the problem? How do you fill the need? You want to talk a little bit about your company's history and background. This is important because it sort of helps the the potential investor know how far along this company has gone. Other possible reasons might be, like, for instance, you might want to mention, yeah, we've made certain sales, we've gotten certain contracts signed. Sort of to establish some sort of a track record, if you can, if that of course exists. You don't want to lie, of course, and make up things that don't exist. Again, why does the business exist? The mission statement. What kind of goals or outcomes, objectives are you trying to accomplish? Notice competitive advantage comes very early on, right? That business model stuff that I mentioned before in the organizational feasibility movie. So make sure you know that stuff, because look, it comes back again. Right? So this is all those four subcomponents. And notice it's sustainable. Right? So there's no point just having a competitive advantage that lasts a couple weeks. We need to be able to develop something that lasts.